we'll see what we can do here. So like I say, I've got some questions here from some people here that I'm gonna try to address. Okay, well, we hit 40, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. The point of today's conversation. Hi everybody, thanks again for joining me. This is episode 4. These seem to be going over pretty well. I appreciate everybody's attendance here, and you know, thank you for being customers and interested in our product. I'm John Hott. I'm the training director for Ocean Technology Systems. I do a lot of these lectures where I cover different points of underwater communications. I've been doing this for 20 years now, and it's been an interesting journey. So, but today we're going to talk about hardwire communications, tips and tricks, and a little bit of troubleshooting with hardwire. And then I also want to talk specifically about troubleshooting. It's be a bit of which I understand that from years, it's not going to get as good comms with hardwire or wireless as you do with hardwire, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But I want to get into wireless or hardwire communications and the different sets that we have. For public safety diving, we have a set of communications it's called the Mark 7, and the Mark 7 is probably one of the most popular of communications out there. If you saw the photo that we did to introduce this was on the to introduce this episode. This was on the cover, and it's the Mark 7. The Mark 7 is a 2-diver hardwire system, four-wire 2-diver hardwire system that uses a headset for the tender, and this boom microphone. I want to specifically talk about this because of Keith's problems, the problems that Keith's team's having, and I think it might narrow down to that. Can't swear to it, but I'm gonna get into that. But the Mark 7, like I said, it's a full duplex 4-wire system, and then we also have the Mark 2 DCI, which is I can go to share. I don't want to know if I don't know. Sorry, I lost my screen. There we are. I'm not going to try that. I went to, it asked me if I wanted to leave this, and I'm not going to mess with that. So if you go to our website and you take a look at our different products, the other one that I was talking about is the Mark 2 DCI. Mark 2 DCI is in a box about this big. I was going to bring one with me, but tossing this stuff up in front of the camera is a little difficult. But it's a 2-diver system that you can stack 3 divers on each one, so you can run a total of 6 divers on a Mark II. It's also a 4-wire system. It uses a speaker and it has a headset. You can get an optional headset with a boom microphone or use a handheld microphone, but it's not very portable. That's the thing about the Mark II compared to the Mark 7. The Mark 7, if you have to walk a shoreline, line management is always going to be an issue with hardwire. But you can walk a shoreline, you can walk a pier. With this, there's a belt clip mounts to your belt. The headset is fairly easy, but you're going to have to manage your lines as you need to. A line tender, at least one line tender, if not 2 for each diver, is always handy. You can get a Y splitter for 3 divers on. The Y splitter, in typical public safety diving, we're diving primary diver, safety diver, and then 90% ready diver, the safety diver, if an event were to occur. And then the Mark II DCI, it works the same way, same principle, everything, except again, it's not portable. Then we have the Mark III. The Mark III is a dedicated 3-diver system, so you have diver 1, diver 3, and you can stack divers on it. But generally, in reality, when we talk about stacking divers, people say, well, we can run 6 divers. Nobody realistically runs 6 divers. 3 divers are going to be the most that you're going to want to run unless you have a specialized going. So we have the three systems: the Mark 7, the Mark II DCI, and the Mark III. We also have a comm box, and that's a 2-wire 1-diver system, and that's very basic intercom used for commercial industry where divers in the water, and by OSHA regulations or whatever the case may be, he's required communications and affords basic communication. Works well, but it's a half duplex. Only one person can talk at a time. You're listening to your diver all the time, and then to talk to the diver, you have to reverse it. But again, the point of this is I wanted to talk about troubleshooting a little bit with wireless or with the hardwire communications. Some of the issues that we have are volume controls. And with the volume, you're gonna be listed. You have volume controls for each individual diver here, and then you have volume. One of the primary problems that we have in with anything, whenever you're talking volume controls, it's going to be a couple of, you got the microphone on the inside, and this is kind of weird. So the microphone has to be properly positioned where, again, it's off the tips of the lips. This is somewhat redundant from what I've talked about already in previous communications or previous events that we've done here. But the microphone has to be right up off the corner of your mouth, and basically, if you purse your lips, you should be able to feel that microphone. If that microphone's tucked down, then what you end up doing is you end up cranking up the volume of the diver really loud, and that cranks up the background noise. Again, I've talked about this in previous videos, but I want to cover this again because I really can't address microphone. But the ability to get that signal into that microphone by being in close proximity to your mouth, you're booming your voice into that microphone. If it's not right there at a quarter of an inch, you lose half the volume, so you end up turning the volume. So you have to do a signal noise ratio. So when you turn the volume up, because you have a weak sound audio coming into the microphone, you turn up all that background noise. Getting that microphone in the proper position, right off the tips of your lips or right here in the corner of your mouth, allows you to turn the volume down because you got a strong voice coming through. And I'm sitting here scrolling through. I don't see any questions that have popped up yet. If you do, send your questions in. I don't want to send your questions in. I'll try to address them as they pop up. And at least at the end, try to go through some questions online or through discussion here. And then after that, if I don't get to your question, I will be reviewing all of them. But again, the microphone position for the diver is very important. There's one thing that I did not cover in previous videos, and Josh wrote and reminded me of this, is earphone position. That you basically have a manual volume control with your earphones. If it's too loud, you back the earphone off your ear. If it's not loud enough, make sure that earphone is pulled all the way up over your ear. When you're properly donning the mask, it's important that you pull the earphone so that when you pull the straps, you're not sucking the neoprene pocket up into the buckle and then it binds it up, and then you have an issue with tightening up your mask and getting it properly, the straps properly tensioned. So pay attention to where the earphones are. If you can't hear, move the earphone over top, and then ask the top side to adjust volumes in. So you want to make sure that your speaker is right over top of your ears, and that's really important. I can't stress that enough as to how important that is. So we've got microphone position, we've got earphone position. Now, the other thing that we have, and I see this all the time, is that when a topside has their headset on, and since I don't need to listen to you guys because you're not talking, a lot of times we're sitting here and I'm watching them and they're trying to talk into the microphone and the microphone's out here. Principle applies to get that microphone in, so that you've got that you've got a strong signal going in, so the strong signal goes in, you can turn your volumes down and you're not blowing anybody away. So hopefully that makes sense. So there is those are probably the biggest issues with volumes, and make sure, and then play with your volume controls. Turn up your diver volume so where your divers spend a minute on the surface before the dive as part of the pre-dive check to adjust your volumes and get your volumes adjusted ballpark as to where you want them. When you get in the water, things are going to change. One of the issues with wireless or hardwire communications that we don't really talk about enough, I think, is the jump of the signal from the speaker, and the speaker that goes over top of your ear to your tympanic membrane, to your eardrum. So if you're wearing a 7mm hood, as an example, you're going to have a couple of things. You got water moving around, you've got air moving around, and there are going to be times when it's like, I can barely hear them, and then all of a sudden, boom, without making any changes, the audio is going to come through because some air bubbles or air pockets shifted around in your hood. You got water now that filled your airspace, and that'll all make a difference in that. And that's really a bigger challenge than a lot of people take into consideration, is that jump from the speaker to your eardrum and everything in between there that comes into play. So those are some of the big issues. Now, Lou asks, is there different connectors between the Mark 7, I'm assuming DC7, I think it'd be Mark 7, and Mark II DCI. The Mark 7, hey JR, do me a favor. I've got it in my box over there. Would you hand that to me? The Mark 7 uses amp connectors, and the amp connectors, these are what we call amp connectors. It's an amp and all connector, and this plugs into the Mark 7. The Mark II DCI, yes, please. Thank you. Thank you. The Mark II DCI uses double banana plugs, you know, so these a lot of people look at these like, really, that's the best you can do. These are a legacy connector. They've been around for a very long time. They the beauty of these is that they're kind of delicate. You know, they end up getting broken. The wires end up getting split. With a small screwdriver and a pocket knife, you can fix one of these in 5 minutes. That's really the beauty of them. And if worse comes to worse, with a Mark II DCI, where these plug in, there's that also a terminal block, or it's a terminal. You can unscrew that. If worse comes to worse, and you're in dire straits, you can rip these connector down, wrap it around the post, and crank that down with a binding post up and run it. Make sure you put the microphones on the microphones. Otherwise, you're going to be listening through the earphone and you know, for the diver, it's going to be talking through the earphones and listening through the microphone. You make sure you wire those correctly. So that's some of the issues. New comps can't hear anything. I'll try to address some of these questions as we get to the end. So, is it still full duplex online? Yes, it'll be working functionally the same as Diver 2. So Diver 2 and Diver 3, if you're using a Y connector or a Y splitter, then it'll be a single control for both divers. So if one diver is too loud and the other one is hard of hearing, then you're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage. One of you will be, because you're going to adjust to whichever one screams the loudest, I think would be the way I'd best describe that. So if you use a Y splitter, then you'll be split off of most likely split off of Diver 2. So your Diver 2 volume is going to control both Diver 2, your safety diver, and your back diver. So you're not going to have separate controls for both those divers. Same thing with the Mark II DCI if you're on Diver. And so you've got a Diver 3 stacked on Diver 2 as well. The same volume controls are going to apply. Constraints are going to apply for volume controls for Diver 2 and Diver 3, or your safety diver and your 90% ready diver. So let me get into some troubleshooting issues. Some of the issues with the wires with Hardwire, if you have squealing, as an example, when you set your system up and you have what's commonly referred to as feedback, what that means is that you've got signals crossing over, so you shorten the system, and it could be that your I got a comm rope here on the other end. It could be that your connectors are not properly. I'm going to get a connector here for a mask. Your high use issue with your high use connectors. So make sure that they're plugged in. If your diver comes at any point with any of the Hardwire, we have a specialized military unit. I'm not going to talk about that does not squeal when you unplug it. But if you unplug this, the diver unplugs from the Hardwire, it's going to squeal topside. So your tender is going to be ripping his headset off. It's like, holy crap, you know, I mean, that was really loud. So you need to make sure that you tell, as a diver, if, you know, unless it happens accidentally, which happens, but if you accidentally, or if you intend on disconnecting because you're trying to reconfigure underwater, whatever, you have a snag you need to clear, whatever the case may be, you shouldn't do that. But sometimes, you know, people do it. Or if you're on the surface getting ready to exit, make sure you're telling your topside, hey, ready to disconnect. So, and they'll reach over, they'll either turn your volume down or they'll pull. So you can, but again, what will happen is this is in water, your top side is going to hear a very loud wee, and it's going to get their attention right away, and they're going to know somebody disconnected. So keep that in mind. Anytime you're offline, make sure your surface know. The other thing about this, and this is fairly important because if somebody unplugs and you got your Mark 7 sitting there, you took your headset off and it's just laying on the dock, and somebody unplugs underwater, especially in salt water, they're still going across there. There's a little bit of energy going across pins. So if it sets in the water for any length of time, what you're going to end up with is one small pin. So it's, and people call up and say, hey, this, well, I can tell you exactly what happened. You left it plugged in and in the water because it's electric from the positive to the negative. You're going to lose material. So the metal is going to erode away, and it can happen, especially in salt water, can happen fairly fast. If you get in the water 10, 15 minutes, and somebody did notice that the headset was sitting there squealing when you set it off to the side and this was in the water, then that's going to damage that. Now, how do you fix that? Wrap up your comm rope and you send it to the server and call in for an RMA. We have to replace the connector. There is no repair for that. We can't pop a pin out and put a new pin in. So be real careful with that. Now, if everything's plugged in, still get that squealing, then you've got an issue somewhere in your line. So you may have a failure in the comm rope. So what I'm going to talk about, and one of the things I really wanted to stress, because this has been a topic of conversation with a lot of things, is problems with their systems, and this applies both to Hardwire. You have a problem, you need what the problem is. So how do you do that? Well, it's commonly referred to, and everybody knows this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway, is the process of elimination. So if you've got what you think might be a bad headset, and your comm rope and everything seems to be working well, along with your marks, and everything seems to be working well, but I'm not in the diver, but I can talk to the diver. Then we want to go through the process of elimination. Okay, well, first thing we want to suspect is always, and I talked about this before, I'm going to step past this real fast. Whenever you're troubleshooting a system, it's always batteries first. Check your batteries first. Even if they're brand spanking new batteries, it's possible that you could get a bad cell, and even brand new out of the box. So you might flip them around, and batteries, try at least twice. That's the case. So batteries first, and then microphones second. That your microphone is working. If you can, then take this set. If this is the one that's giving you a problem, then grab another a headset with a boom microphone off of another mask and plug that in and see if that fixes the problem. If that fixes the problem, then we've narrowed the problem down to this mask. Now we want to narrow it down. Again, what's the issue? Is it that you can't hear the diver talking, and the diver can hear you? Well, then most likely it's going to be the microphone. So if that's the case, then you might the microphone off. The microphone is held in place by just a pair of screws, and you can swap them out between. It's not a bad idea for dive teams out there. Write this down. Pick up a spare microphone, the ME16R or the new one, depending on what your wire configuration. You've got the little boots or the little feet on the inside where the microphone's attached. You want to pick up an ME16R hot mic, and so swap the microphones out. If that fixes it, there you go. You know you've got a bad microphone. Look on the insides of the microphones as well. But look on the inside of the microphone. The microphone has a mylar membrane. I talked about this previously. The mylar membrane or the hydrophobic membrane. Mylar is clear. The hydrophobic membrane is white. Look in there and see if there is any signs of rust or corrosion on the inside. Sorry, back hurts. So make sure that you don't see anything there. You can also take a microphone off, remove the microphone, put an ohm meter on it, and if the ohm meter it should read 150 ohms, give or take a few. Now, will this tell you if you have a good microphone? Not necessarily. If it ohms out, you still might have an issue with the microphone, but I can tell you if it's 0 ohms, you have a bad microphone. So again, we're going through the process of elimination, and so you don't want to and check it out and see what you've got. If the earphones are bad, are you hearing in one earphone and not, then it may be the cable to the earphone, or it could be the earphone. In the case, you need to send it in to our service department, because we don't have end user replacements for the earphones. And this is the new style earphones. The older style, this is called the EP3. The old ones are the EP2. The EP look like a little hockey puck. They don't have the contours shaped on this. These are little EP2s. They're also the manufacturing process is a little bit different, a little more streamlined. So that's the difference between the EP2 and the EP3. So check that out. What else? Connectors. Maintenance of your connectors. I want to talk real quick about that, because this is a problem. This is troubleshooting, and this is an issue. Your high-use connector, if you, as I'm pointing down in there, if you look down on the inside and if it's green, then you want to clean the high-use connector. To clean out the high-use connector, then what you're talking about, your comms are glitchy, right, Sean? If my comms are bad, well, let me know. Shoot me a note. If you're in your high-use connector, you want to clean that. So you want to use some CLR. Get it from the hardware store. Calcium lime rust. It's an acidic solution used for breakdown calcium, lime, and rust. Everybody should be familiar with CLR. We use it in a lot of different things, especially cleaning our bathrooms, or anything that has hard water deposits in it. If you can, you might pick up and go on Amazon and pick up some syringes, or what are they called? Like eyedroppers. There's a term for them. I can't think of what it is, but it's like an eyedropper. And you can buy these things. They're little plastic eyedroppers, and they're real cheap. But you want to use those, and you suck up a bit of the CLR and put it, mount it in there, and then to hold this upright position. At work, we have a board that has pins on it, and you open up the clothespin, you snap that in, and that'll hold this while we're working with them, and let it soak for 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then you want to flush it out. So then you're going to use a pipe cleaner. If you go to the makeup store, someplace that sells makeup, you can pick up mascara brushes. What they are, that have never been used, white bristle brushes, and you can use. But pipe cleaners Pipe cleaners have a wire bristle in them, or a little bit better, and so you can go in and clean those out. So flush it out with water, and then follow it up with alcohol. Alcohol in that is a pipette, is what those things are called, the little droppers. Squirt some alcohol in there and help dry it out. So the video, fine, the audio is glitchy. I'm glitchy? Okay. I don't know if the microphone position, is this any better? I don't know. I don't know if that helped or not. So clean those, and maintenance. Then silicone grease. Silicone grease. Your audio is breaking up. Well, I don't have any way to test it. I don't know if it. I don't know what low tech on it. I can unplug. Let me do this real quick. I'm going to divert, and I'm going straight off the microphone on the computer. Is that better? Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Better? Ed, can you let me know if that's better? That sound? No reply yet. Follow us one. No. Is that better, JR? Sounds good. Okay. Well, I'm going to skip the headset then. The microphone. You're going to be a little echoey, I think, with that. So hopefully that fixed it. Okay. So make sure these are lubricated. Good. Okay. Good. Make sure lubricated. Take a little bit of silicone grease. Anybody that's been in my my technician classes, silicone grease called zip slip. Okay. Good. I'm still breaking up. Well, I'm not sure what to think. A little bit of silicone, grease these up. You want to grease up both sides. Make sure you grease up, put a little in each socket of a pair of connectors, and then plug them together, loosen, wipe off any excess, but that way you'll have lubricant on these. Silicone, it won't hurt anything. It won't interfere with the communications. So make sure that it's, okay, good. Thanks, Ed. So make sure that those are clean. Mark, on the end, make sure your connectors, your connectors are they're in there. I did notice Mark 7, I don't know if this is going to show, but you can see some. I need to take a little time with this unit, a little bit of love, and clean these connectors up. And that's important to make sure that you take care of your connectors. Okay, so wireless. Talk about feedback squealing. If you can, it could be the comm rope. If your unit, like your surface station, you just can't get the power up, that when you plug in the Mark 7, it should give you a little, like a little weep at the very beginning when you plug it up in. If you don't get any juice, nothing coming out of this, swap your stuff around, then you're probably here or your connectors. The older Mark 7s, and I talked a little bit about this, I'm going to be running along today. The Mark 7, and so what it has is spring terminals. That around a little bit. You see the spring terminals there, and that eliminates so you don't have that issue. So, what's a good means for a known good speaker? Topside speakers. Let's talk about that later on. Afterwards, I'll get with you on the impedance of the earphones are around eight ohms on the speakers for these. Okay, so is that still on me? Jeez. Okay, well, I'm going to think of the audio connection here. So that's pretty much it with hardware. We talked about the ear microphone. And this is a common. Can hear the surface. We want to check our transducers to see if our transducer is bad. I'll transduce a little bit, and on the technical side. Now, this is a transducer off of an SSB 2010. We remove the transducer from the SSB 2010, and we put it on an extension cord, and this becomes now a surface station. So it goes on. It becomes a surface station. So what we have, I'm a little jostling around here, is we have an SSB 2010 that's set up as a surface station. Now, since the transducer is removable, if with the surface station, the CDK6 or any surface station for that matter, if you can hear the divers but they come weak, but the divers can't hear you, there's two things that could be wrong. First off, as I mentioned earlier, you always want to suspect batteries for a second. Microphones can be in too, but I've already talked about microphones a little bit. Still, that's part of this system. These are all links in a chain, so each one has to work. If you have a failure in one, it takes things down. So with the transducer, back up a little bit. Batteries, you can hear, but your diver, it's possible that your batteries are low. Think of it this way: when you have a signal coming in, the receive of the unit is passive, so that doesn't take a lot of energy. So if your batteries are low, it doesn't take much. Now, with phone, or in this case, with phone here, when you key that microphone, then you spike the output battery. The battery is going to drain that battery down, and if your battery is weak, it's just not going to get enough punch to be able to send that signal out. So it could be the first thing. If you hear the divers can't hear you, suspect batteries first. Secondly, if the microphone, check your microphone. Your microphone's working. As I said earlier, if your microphone's not working, there's a microphone. So elimination with that to make sure that your microphone is working. Now, the next thing is transducers. And transducers, a lot of people, then they don't know what's on the inside of this thing. Well, ceramic ring. It's this little ring. It's a little cylinder about this thick, depending on the frequency. The smaller the transducer, the higher the frequency. I talked about that in a previous. I'm talking about speakers, you know, big speakers for bass, low frequency, little speakers for tweeter, very high frequency. Same thing, principle applies. Well, the ceramic ring is just that. It's ceramic. So what that means is it could be delicate. Not really delicate. They hold up pretty well, but if you smack this thing on the end of the whip against the concrete, you know, you got this thing plugged in, and somebody swings this around and it goes against the concrete, there's a potential of the transducer getting cracked. So one of the transducer, if you put that ring and it's got just a little hairline fraction in it, that it's got a crack in it. When a signal's coming in, that signal's coming in, and it's basically compressing that ceramic ring. So it'll still pick up that signal and transmit it into the electronics package inside here. So you're going to hear your divers, but possibly not all, because you have a system. And go to transmit, what happens? How does that transmit? That ceramic ring now, when you put energy to it, that ceramic ring is going to vibrate and it's going to open up. As soon as that crack opens up, so the signal's coming in, but I don't know what John, I'm not sure about the signal here. JR, are you hearing me all right? Oh, okay. Well, do me a favor, go on and see if it's breaking up on mine. Okay, sorry guys, we're trying to troubleshoot here. I don't know. I'm not sure where to go with this. We have good signal here. We have hundreds of megabits of bandwidth, so I'm not sure what to think. So I don't know if it's my computer or not. We'll continue on. If we have to recover this, we'll do it. I'll do this in a video too. So the transducer, so always want to check a transducer. Easy way to check a transducer if you're using a C6, you take this transducer off and grab one from another radio, and you can swap them out, and that way you've got it. You have the means of that. I have not is this my personal one? This is my personal one. I have I need to check this out. So look at that. I'm going to have when I go in the water, are all chewed up. Actually, there's an O-ring that has apparently been compromised in my radio. So I'm going to have to clean all this up before I go diving with this. And this is my personal radio. I've been using 18 years now. So I got to clean that up. So maybe you need to check those. All obviously for the diver's end, if you have something that looks like that on the diver's end, well, there's your figure that out. Again, with the radios, with the SSB20, you want to look at that. I talked about the same with the earphones. You're going to do it the same troubleshooting as with Hardwire for the ear microphone assembly on your radios. If your microphone's bad, isolate the microphone. Earphone's bad, isolate the ear. Connector's bad, isolate the connectors. If it doesn't work, if the PTT does not work, then hopefully if the video, when we download the video, save it. If it's glitchy, I'll go in and do another video on the same subject, not on live, and record, so you guys can go back and review the same subjects here. So again, through the process of elimination on all those components. With the SSB 2010, again, if you have a problem with your radio, check your transducer, make sure connectors, like I was just saying, make sure that that's in good shape. If you want to, I'm going to put this other transducer on here. If the radios power up, then suspect your batteries, suspect your connectors on the inside. There are wires on the inside that them. Take this apart and we'll show you these wires. There's wires on the inside. You want to check both ends of that. The 9-volt battery map. This comes in a service kit that has the O-rings in it. Their O-ring just came out, so you want to check the O-ring, make sure that this O-ring is in good shape, that it's doing the O-ring is supposed to do, and then check the wires, check your batteries to make sure you're and everything that goes along. What else do we have? So if you, again, and your diver's not transmitting, but your diver can hear, you have to check the microphone. So the audio is driving you nuts. I don't have far to go. Okay. Well, I'll see what's going on with my audio here. So the whole point is, again, is to go through, troubleshoot your system, figure out where your problems are. Always suspect the batteries first, second, and then get into process of elimination to figure out where your other issues are. Also, with the surface stations, check your cables. Make sure your cables are in good shape. That nothing is damaged when you're on. If you get a blemish on the cable, then water's going to penetrate into the jacket, and that will be the loose signal there. So your signal could come in and out with that. So, okay, so that covers most. Apologize for the glitchiness of my audio. I'm missing about half of my audio. Okay, well, I have to just make sure we don't have this issue in the future. Hopefully the recording will come up with good audio there. We'll see. So what I'm going to do is, as people want to, if you want to check out, good. But if you have questions, post them up here. I'm going to scroll through, and I'm going to just address questions for a little. This will be not quite as interesting, and it's going to be a little broken as we read and scroll through the questions. If you need to check out, thanks again. If you guys, as I mentioned last time, did this with another group that I did a Zoom meeting with, if you're doing any meetings, but with your public safety agencies or dive club, if you'd like to, I'll go ahead and let me know. And we don't charge for anything for that, but I'll set in on a Zoom meeting with you, and I can go through and I can talk about comms and so forth. So thanks for coming, and I appreciate everybody attending here. But roll through the questions. So PT mode in your, are you hardwire or wireless, Keith? Or no, it's Kevin. I'm Kevin Tibbetts. PTT mode is used only in wireless. Hardwire is full duplex. You shouldn't have to push the talk button. You hear yourself breathing very loud. If that's on a wireless system, and this is something I could do, you're probably actually, if you push the talk button and you're hearing your divers talk, then Vox. And Vox is voice operated transmission, VOX, voice operated X for transmission. And what happens in Vox is when you're talking you have your mask on, get your microphone. When you talk into the mic, the electronics in the SSB 2010 understand your talk. What that's your microphone. I'm a fan of Vox. I'll be honest with you. With Vox, words. And this is in Vox mode. The way you check it is you push the talk button on your mask. You push it when you're on the SSB 2010. The SSB 2010 is powered up. You're going to push the talk button, and this is a whole nother. I could do a video on voice menu. In fact, maybe I will. Voice menu. You push it 1, 2, 3. When the radio activated and the radio will come on, little girl on the radio will come on and tell you what your are. It'll say it'll come on and say transmit, push to talk. Let me get this. It transmit channel squelch volume. It'll say push to talk. Channel 1, Vox on, or push on, side high, receive high. Those will be your volume settings the last few. So if you push it 1, 2, 3, and it says Vox, then channel 1, then what you're on Vox mode. And the thing about Vox mode is the inside of a mask is not a quiet place. You end up false triggering, and that could be an issue. So you want to make sure you're not in Vox mode. Make sure you have your settings right. I generally run mine in push to talk, channel whichever one usually that talks about as well. And I run my squelch. I'll talk about 20. Squelch on or squelch off. Squelch will be on, but you have to get your squelch adjusted right. So I'll talk about squelch in a future video. Squelch can be that's a long conversation in upon itself, how you get your squelch all set up properly, and then your receive volume and your side tone volume are high. That's the way I run them because I'm half anyway. So those are some of the issues. We'll talk more about that. Evan, do me a favor, shoot me a note. If you want, we can talk. I can go into it in more detail with that. So we'll see what we can do. Is my still glitchy here? Are you monitoring? Glitchy for you? Yeah. Okay, we need to figure that out. Relatively simple. We use a Mark II to be used with wireless, such as 2010. The Mark II is wireless, is hardwire only. The Mark II is not a surface for a wireless. There's no mixing and matching of hardwire to wireless units. The Mark II is a surface hardwire intercom. For the surface station, you need to use, as I just said, an 2010 with a CDK6 headset and the cable, or you need to use an STX 101, which is surfing, or the what's the other one? No, the SPS 100 for the buddy phone. Sir, I'm sorry, a little bit. So the Mark II DC, okay. I'm going to try. I'm going to break off this, and it's too annoying to try. I'm going to go to my telephone. So I'm going to put this down. If you're interested, and I'll scroll through here, but I'm going to mount my telephone here to the side, and I'm going to bring it up and see if that fixes our problem here. So bear with me. We'll go ahead and shut down. Anybody interested in still attending the questions and answer session, I'm going to disengage, so I'll be re-engaged here in just a minute. So with me, I'm going to go ahead and call this, and I'll be right back on live with my from my cell phone. So I'll be back in just a minute.